context is a huge factor when it comes to how well you understand and speak French. If you know how to use context to your advantage, you'll advance so much faster. Alors, in this video, I'm going to tell you about three ways you can make the most out of context to improve your French. Du coup, si vous êtes prêts, allez, c'est parti. Salut tout le monde, moi c'est Alex, and if it's your first time here, I am a native English speaker turned French coach, helping you to speak French with confidence. Alors, before we get into the techniques for using context, I think I should be clear about what I mean by context. Context is the ensemble of characteristics that make up a situation. Imagine yourself, a foreign French speaker, sitting down to watch a French TV series. The contextual components here are things like how you're feeling in that moment, the show you choose, the environment in which you've chosen to watch the show, your prior knowledge of the themes, the medium you select to consume the show. The list goes on and on. All of these elements, both individually and together, determine how much you're likely to get out of your 30-minute session, for example. But that's just one of many scenarios. You could also look at all the different elements that make up the context surrounding a conversation you have. The topic of conversation, the background noise, the speed and accent of the other person, your pronunciation. Is it one person or many people that you're talking to? How many times have you been in a similar situation? All of these contribute to how well you'll perform. So make sure you take all of that into account before perhaps criticizing yourself about your last conversation that didn't go as well as you would have wanted. Alors, when more of the situation's context is in your favor, you're going to do better, whether it be understanding or producing the language. With that in mind, the first technique for making the most of context when learning French is with a tool called LingoPie, or perhaps that's LangoPie in French. LingoPie are very kindly sponsoring today's video, but all the opinions I'm going to give are my own. It's a tool that really goes a long way to helping you retain more of what you watch in French because of all its context-based features. So what is LingoPie? LingoPie is a subscription-based video-on-demand platform made specifically for language learners. So it comes with tons of well-thought-out features that we can use in order to get so much more out of a French TV show or film than, say, watching on YouTube or Netflix. Things like the ability to show subtitles in either English, French, or both at once, which they call mashup, allow you to challenge yourself to the degree you feel comfortable with. And you can also slow down the video if you need to really hear a particular sound clearly. Not only that, but you can watch along with the entire script showing at the side of the video. I really like that both the subtitles and the lines in the script are interactive, meaning you can click them at any time and get their meanings in English, as well as an audio pronunciation, along with other information such as is it a noun, verb, adverb, etc. In the show Woke that I've been watching, I found that LingoPie intelligently groups words together when they might give a different meaning to when the words are viewed individually. For example, in the following scene, two guys are in a bar and one of the characters says, "Je suis un peu bourré, je ne regarde pas où je vais." Let's have a look.
Non, c'est bon, c'est bon.
Non mais je peux...
C'est moi qui devrais m'excuser, je suis un peu bourré, je regarde pas où je vais.
Now I hovered over the line and un peu bourré was highlighted as one block. I clicked it, a voice pronounced it, and I could click to see a translation, which is a little drunk. But, and this is where context is important here, on its own, bourré means stuffed. However, in the context of the scene, it means drunk. So it's really cool that LingoPie is smart enough to teach us the appropriate meaning. Any word that you click on gets automatically added to your flashcard deck, which it encourages you to practice at the end of a video. It saves the individual word or phrase, the sentence it was part of, for more context to help you remember it, and a clip of the scene. There are then quizzes you can do to test your knowledge. Another feature I've tried is the pronunciation tester. You click on the microphone icon and you try to reproduce the sentence from the video. Again, not just an individual word, but the word in context.
On y gagne en qualité et on y gagne en prix.
I have a very good pronunciation and intonation in French, if I do say so myself, and yet I only scored 8 out of 100 and 25 out of 100 on my first goes. So I think there's still some work to do with this feature, but pronouncing something by repeating it immediately after hearing it in context and by a native is a really great way to practice not only pronunciation, but intonation as well. Now, one frustrating thing about media that is made for natives and set in natural situations is that sometimes things are muffled or there is a lot of background noise, all part of the context and part of life, right? Of course, you can go back and replay a part that you didn't get the first time, but LingoPie goes further and lets you hear a clear, computer-generated reproduction of that line.
Personne ne vous a forcé à être là.
Ne vous a forcé.
After having understood the line, you'll probably be able to understand more of the original. So go and check out LingoPie if you are curious. There are so many shows on there right now. I'm watching Woke, Learn with a Chef. Instructional videos are great, by the way, because you see the steps in action whilst hearing the French. And a short film called Reality Plus, if you like a bit of sci-fi and fantasy. They offer a 7-day free trial and also a 65% discount to my subscribers who sign up via the special link down below in the description of the video. By watching and listening to things in context, you're really going to save yourself a lot of time in the long run. Alors, ensuite, the next way I use context to progress faster with my French is to do with reading. It can be very tempting to stop at every new word you don't understand when reading in French, but it's important to remember that when we read, especially reading for pleasure, we want to understand the messages that the words communicate. We want to get lost in the story. These messages are formed from the context as a whole. You know this because one word on its own can have several possible meanings. Think back to bourré earlier. When in context, say as part of a sentence or a whole page or chapter, you understand the meaning and therefore the message without needing to know every word's translation to English. Take the front cover of this book, Un rien peut tout changer by James Clear. It's called Atomic Habits in English and is a personal development book. I really recommend it. I look down here at the quote from Larousse. Now, I can understand and translate accurately all but one of those words. I don't know the exact English for bousculer, but I know that this book is about change and habits, and I know that on the front page they want to use powerful language to make us buy it. So the message must mean something like it turns habits on their head and takes them to another level. So when I read books or articles in French, if I don't understand a word, I will keep reading because there's a high chance that I will comprehend the message being expressed once I've read to the end of the paragraph. And I can deduce what the English for that word would be. If not exactly, then more or less. I've pulled out a passage that contains words whose meanings are just about clear enough for me to be happy that I've understood the message behind them, but where one leaves me confused as to its exact meaning. I'm going to read it to you. Pendant la guerre du Golfe, le capitaine de corvette Michael Riley a sauvé un navire de guerre après avoir ordonné la destruction d'un missile. Alors que celui-ci ressemblait en tout point à l'un de ses propres avions sur l'écran radar. Il avait raison. Mais même ses officiers supérieurs n'ont pu expliquer comment il avait eu cette intuition. Now, in order to illustrate a point about habits, the author is telling a story, and it's in a context that I don't have a lot of knowledge on, warfare and vehicles, which increases the chances that I'll be lost. I understand that he's talking about a captain during the Gulf War, but until I get to ses propres avions, 3 lines later, I don't know if he's in the Air Force or the Navy, because it also mentions ships. I'm still not totally sure, but thanks to the greater context of the book and my knowledge of the vocab around what I don't immediately understand, I can move on, happy enough. You could have a lower level overall in French to mine, but understand the words I don't because you have specific knowledge of that topic. That context is more familiar to you. More of it is in your favor. Of course, I'm a curious guy, so I look words up when I'm reading, but it's up to me to find a balance, and it's important to read just to soak up the language. I remind myself that although I'm reading to improve my French, I'm mainly doing it because I enjoy learning what the book or article has to tell me and not to pick up vocabulary. That will happen as a byproduct. And now for my next trick, I'm going to tell you about how I use context to maximize vocab retention. So, technique numéro 3 for using context to learn French faster and with less frustration illustration is to do with the creation and revision of flashcards. Now, when I study with flashcards, I generally only do so with flashcards that I make myself. This is because I can be very deliberate about what I learn. The phrase that will go on the flashcard will A, mean something to me, B, have to be read and then entered rather than just read from a predefined list, and C, be accompanied by an audio recording made by a native. When the phrase means something to you, that means it comes with a memory, which could mean the page of the book you pulled it from and the book itself, the person that said the phrase first and made you want to or need to write it down, or even just that you know it's going to be a very useful phrase or word for you. It's important to you. Now that massively increases the chances you're going to want to work on it and use it. If it has to be read first and then entered, then that's extra time in the phrase, in the words, in the language, in that context, rather than if you just click on a pre-made deck of flashcards. The latter is easier, that's for sure, but over time you will typically see that retention of those words takes longer. And when it's accompanied by a recording, you get to hear the phrase pronounced with a natural intonation in the context of a full sentence. You'll hear sounds disappear and also join together, like we make liaisons in French. You would learn vous as vous, but as soon as you put it in a sentence like vous avez mangé, you hear it differently. You hear another pronunciation of that word. And you just do not get this benefit if you only have the written form. If you don't have audio available for the phrase you want to commit to memory, which is quite common if it's a phrase personal to you, then you can try and find it in forvo.com and download it once you've created a free account, or ask a native to record them for you.
Capitaine de corvette.
Sometimes you want to just memorize a single word, but you should still put it in a phrase so that it has extra context and you can hear it in the flow of a full sentence. Single words are easier to find on Forvo than full phrases unless it's a fixed expression. Images are also really useful for flashcards, especially when you don't want to rely on translating between French and English. As long as you understand the message communicated by the French and the image together, you know what the French means. Imagine I want to remember the word le clavier, specifically the musical instrument. Instead of using English, I could use an image of un clavier accompanied by the word le clavier. You see, in this case, you don't need the English to know what is being communicated to you. Voila, a simple and clear example. Now, I like to use memrise.com to create my own interactive flashcards because it allows me to add in audio and images. Anki is another, but I find it kind of a boring experience, to be honest, when running through the cards. I'll leave a link to a guide for creating your own flashcards on Memrise down below in the description. Now you're ready to make the most of context and your precious time, go and check out this video next. À la prochaine. Ciao.